Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
Browns OTAs have started today, kind of, right? I know they do a little bit of stuff on the field today, but not like a ton of stuff on the field, or at least for the public to see. The first real day of OTAs will be Wednesday, and that's where you get to see a little bit more about what the team is to do. So like we do every year, let's have a conversation about what the Browns should look for, what you, the fan, should look for in OTAs, what's important, what's not important during OTAs, and, you know, just the limitations of what you can really extrapolate from something as limited as OTAs is. And I think that's the first part where we have to start, which is the inherent limitations of OTAs. OTAs are not padded practices. OTAs are non-contact practices. In OTAs, because of the collective bargaining agreement and to keep players healthy for the upcoming season, are just not gonna be that insightful. You can't really do team-on-team periods in OTA practices because that is not something allowed in the CBA. There are severe limitations to it, which means any takeaway that you get from OTAs should be taken with a healthy grain of salt. So this is to all the quarterback people out there. I don't care who looks good during OTAs. Take it with a grain of salt, right? Joe Flacco might look amazing, might not. Kenny Pickett might look amazing, might not. Doesn't matter. Shedeur Sanders might look amazing, might not. Doesn't matter. Dylan Gabriel might look amazing, might not. Doesn't really matter. Now, do you want to see positive steps for these players? Sure. But just because you see those positive steps does not indicate anything more than that player is making the appropriate step for this step of training camp and nothing more. So try not to extrapolate a ton from OTAs, regardless of the position, right? Every year during OTAs, like clockwork, somebody falls in love with some wide receiver. Right? Somebody falls in love with some wide receiver or some other player here and there and starts dreaming up a Victor Cruz-like scenario for that player. And then, you know, they start talking to me about how that player is going to change everything. And then next thing you know, it's the preseason, that player has a good game, and then you're telling me that player should be second on the depth chart. Try to take everything with a grain of salt. Try to take everything with the correct amount of, I don't want to say cynicism, but the correct amount of skepticism, right? Just because somebody looks good in OTAs does not guarantee that they're going to look good in training camp, and vice versa, and vice versa, and vice versa. So that's the disclaimer for this video. Now, there are parts of OTAs that are a little bit more important for some position groups than they are for others. I will say this. I do not care how a defensive tackle looks during this period of the season. I do not care how an edge rusher looks during this portion of the season. OTAs are next to useless for most offensive linemen, most defensive linemen, and sometimes linebackers, but linebackers have some use in OTAs. They're kind of in the same box that tight ends are in. So running backs, offensive linemen, defensive linemen, I do not care what they do in OTAs. I'm going to be real with you. Don't even care if they show up, right? So if some offensive lineman is not there for OTAs, if some defensive lineman is not there for voluntary OTAs, I do not care. As the default stance for me. The reason I find it difficult to care is simple. Because of how OTAs have to be structured, because of the CBA, they are limited. What they limit is physicality. What they especially limit is physicality in the trenches. You can't really do team-on-team drills, right? You have to do individual drills. Sometimes you have some limited access to team drills, but never are those team drills really allowed to do anything in the trenches. Obviously, defensive tackle play is all trenches. Same thing with edge play. Same thing with offensive line play. Same thing with running back play. Because you're not getting an accurate simulation of any of that for those players, I cannot care about what those players do or if those players show up to camp. So that is why I do not care what running backs, defensive tackles, defensive ends, and offensive linemen do in OTAs. You shouldn't either, right? If you want to look at DeJuan Jones and make sure he's healthy, good. If you want to look at DeJuan Jones and make sure, it looks like he's at a proper playing weight, that's a dangerous game to play because it's really hard to evaluate weight off of eyesight. We're not good at that. I know people think that they're good at that, but people are often awful at guessing weight. That's why it's a whole carnival game, right? The whole guess how much this person weighs by looking at him. We don't know, right? People carry their weight in different ways. So I would stay away from any of that. But, if the team's happy with DeJuan's weight, then that's all we really need. Other than that, don't really care how DeJuan looks at training camp. I mean, not training camp, but OTAs. And remember, OTAs are not training camp, right? Training camp's when you put on pads, when you start practicing, really installing. OTAs, you got a lot of guys on the roster, probably not going to be on the team in a couple months. So you're not going to really be installing that much, right? Like you're going to do some basic installs, but you're going to probably have to go over all this stuff anyways at the beginning of training camp. So you're not doing deep installs or anything crazy like that, right? Nothing game plan specific, nothing game day specific. It's really just setting up, and that's how every team operates. That's why OTAs, take them with a massive grain of salt. As far as like what you can take stuff away from, maybe if you get some 7-on-7 periods, you're not going to get a ton of them in OTAs. But maybe if you get some 7-on-7 periods, those are important. You want to see how the quarterbacks play in 7-on-7. Again, 7-on-7 is not a accurate simulation of 11-on-11. So even if a quarterback has success in 7-on-7s, right? Like I expect Joe Flacco to be amazing at 7-on-7s. I think Dylan Gabriel will probably be really strong at 7-on-7. Same thing with Kenny Pickett, maybe even Shador, right? But like all four of these quarterbacks should be fine in 7-on-7s because a lot of the questions surrounding these quarterbacks have to do with how they handle pressure. Either it be for Joe Flacco's age or Kenny Pickett, his response to pressure hasn't always been a great. Dylan Gabriel, not the tallest guy. There's no line to look over in 7-on-7. So you expect in 7-on-7s that they're able to look fine. And even in a lot of cases, some of these guys are building up chemistry with these wide receivers. So if they have a bad performance, it can be easily forgiven. It's not the biggest deal in the world. But yeah, 7-on-7s, you could glean a little bit from that. As far as anything else goes with OTAs, take it with a grain of salt. Just take it with a huge grain of salt. And look, I'm not trying to tell you not to be excited about the upcoming football season. I'm not telling you not to be excited about OTAs. If you're excited about OTAs, be excited. I'm never going to dampen anybody's sunshine. But understand that just because something good happens at OTAs does not mean it is guaranteed to carry over to training camp. Does not mean it's guaranteed to carry over from training camp to preseason, and does not mean it's guaranteed to be carried over from preseason to regular season. Especially for the rookies, these guys got a long ways to go before they're going to be able to be productive on the NFL playing field. They got a lot of steps to clear. This is one of those steps, but it's one of the easier and earlier steps for them to clear. I expect every rookie on this roster to be able to look good enough at OTAs that you feel good about going on to the next step with them, right? Getting caught up at OTAs would be very concerning, right? But most of these guys are going to be able to get past this step and be relatively fine. For the rookie quarterbacks, it's going to be a step up from rookie camp. Not that much different in terms of what you're being asked to do, right? Similar stuff that they're going to be asked to do in rookie camp that they're going to do in OTAs. But it will be a step up. You are playing against guys who are likely to make the roster or more likely to make the roster than in rookie camp, right? There's some NFL veterans mixed in there. Maybe you get some time against the first team, where obviously that's going to be a massive step up there too. And maybe there's an adjustment for these rookies there. Maybe there's not, right? Because the 7-on-7, there's really no pressure, and that's what speeds it up for them. Again, take everything with a grain of salt, especially with the rookie class. I know it's been a while since we had a rookie class as plentiful as this one, but take it with a grain of salt. Try not to get too carried away with any observations during OTAs, and just enjoy them for what they are, right? The first time the rookies and the veterans get together and you get to see the first picture of what this Browns team will be, right? As long as you keep it in that context and you're not trying to drag it out that context or pull more out of it than what is meant to be pulled out of, then I think you can be able to enjoy OTAs, have a great time, but also not put yourself in a position where you have unfair expectations going forward because you just made too big of an extrapolation from something like OTAs, right? We saw this kind of happen with rookie camp where people making a real big deal out of how Dylan played in rookie camp or how Shador played in rookie camp. You can't really extrapolate anything from rookie camp. The same thing's going to be true with OTAs, right? And to an extent, even training camp becomes hard to extrapolate, right? Dorian Thompson-Robinson is a perfect example of this. Somebody who shined in rookie camp and shined in OTAs and shined in training camp and preseason games. But then when it came to playing actual NFL games, he was the worst quarterback in the NFL last year. So even success in training camp, success in the preseason, success in all of the offseason thing, it does not guarantee on-field NFL success, because when those bullets start flying at NFL speed, it's just going to be different. It's just going to be an adjustment for no matter who it's going to be playing quarterback, right? Even for somebody like Joe Flacco, who's done this since I was a kid, it's going to be an adjustment having to play in actual NFL games after, being on and off the bench a ton for the Indianapolis Colts. So just be careful, have fun with it, right? Be excited about who you're excited for, but understand that OTAs are very limiting, and even training camp is limiting. Same thing with preseason. And you're just not going to be able to take away big things from this part of the calendar, right? Doesn't mean you don't pay attention or you don't care or you don't want to talk about it. Obviously, I would like it if you cared and wanted to talk about it, but also means to just keep your expectations in check based on what's actually happening on the calendar. But that's my pre-OTA speech. I give it every year. Sometimes we listen, sometimes we don't. But that's my thoughts about OTAs. Y'all let me know what you think in the comment section below. Have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.